flesh,
and dwelt amongst us.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
Pray for us, O Holy Mother of God,
That we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ. Pour forth, we beseech you, O Lord, your grace into our hearts, that we, to whom the incarnation of Christ, your Son, was made known by the message of an angel, may by his passion and cross be brought to the glory of his resurrection, through the same Christ our Lord. Amen.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Tonight on the program, traumatized residents in Abra appeal for clean water as the province is now under a state of calamity after a destructive magnitude 7 earthquake. Health officials detect nearly 1,000 more Omicron subvariant cases as daily infections nationwide breach the 3,000 mark. And a member of the K-pop group GOT7 meets with 2 Filipino celebrities here in Manila, sparking speculations of a collaboration.
Meron pa!
Ay,
We're still monitoring the aftermath of a destructive magnitude 7 earthquake that hit northern Luzon yesterday morning. So far, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, says 5 people died. The number of injured, however, has climbed to over 130. Estimated cost of damage to infrastructure is at 33.8 million pesos. As of today, authorities have recorded over 800 aftershocks ranging between magnitude 1.5 and 5. Residents now are on the edge, fearing more aftershocks in the coming days. Breaking news, our Abra province, the earthquake's ground zero, is now under a state of calamity. Officials report 1 person was killed by falling debris. Hundreds of houses, public and private buildings, as well as churches were damaged. These will require immediate repairs to make sure they're safe. Let's now have our George Cahiles joining us live from Bangued in Abra. George, how will the state of calamity declaration help residents there?
Albeit the declaration of a state of calamity means government may impose price freeze on basic goods and may put price caps on basic and prime commodities. With this declaration, the local government may also have access to the calamity fund that may be used to give aid to affected residents. Now, many people here seem to be traumatized by the earthquake and its aftershocks. This is why they were having a hard time picking up the pieces that were destroyed by the quake.
Is a place of comfort and safety. But for the residents of Bangued Abra, this is no longer the case after the magnitude 7 earthquake hit the town Wednesday morning. For most of them, even the thought of entering their house makes them cringe, as strong aftershocks are still felt every now and then.
Natatakot po ako kasi buntis po ako, tas may mga bata pa po kami, tas may sakit po yung mama ko, tas senior na din po yung papa ko. Hindi po namin alam yung gagawin pag lumakas pa po lalo yung lindol. Siyempre po, may trauma na din po kasi hindi po namin alam talaga yung gagawin.
Staying in open areas or outside their homes is their only option, even if they are exposed to the elements. They say it's better that way rather than risk their lives by being hit by falling debris.
Takot kami kasi kung mag-aftershock na, ayun na, yung umuugong ba yung doon sa ilalim ng ay naghuhulugan yung mga naka-display sa amin. Nahulog lahat. Sa kami nabasag. Hindi namin iniintindi yun. Basta na lang lumabas kami.
Lumabas kayo?
Kasi mas importante naman yung namin, life namin.
Told them na Doon lang muna sila sa labas ng bahay nila. So what the mayor and the LGU did was nag-distribute kami ng mga lona. Oh. Okay.
Jolt after jolt, the tired and sleepy residents remain vigilant of their surroundings. And they ask, until when will we be like this?
Grabe. Hindi ka talaga nga, Kwan.
Nervyos.
Halo-halo lahat na. Hindi mo alam kung saan ka talaga, Kwan. Anong gagawin mo?
The Philippine Institute for Volcanology and Seismology says structures must be properly examined to determine its structural integrity before residents may safely return home.
Electricity was already restored in 95% of the province according to the local power distributor. There is no water supply in some portions of Bangued, and some residents are telling us that the water coming from the pitcher pumps are yellowish in color, and they don't want to use that. Reason why lines are long in water refilling stations. The national government vows to assist in supplying clean water by providing portable water purifiers. Back to you, Pia.
What is the weather there like today, George, and how did that affect the situation?
Well, it drizzled before dawn. It rained this afternoon. That's why some residents who were staying outside their homes looked for places where they can take cover. Thing is, whenever they feel an aftershock, they head to open areas again. That's why some people whom we talked to said they did not get much sleep because they have to be alert and mindful of their surroundings. Pia?
George Quiles there reporting from Bangued in Abra. President Bongbong Marcos visited Abra this morning to inspect damaged areas and visit the evacuees. He also led a situation briefing with national and local officials. Rex Remigio tells us about the president's directives.
President Marcos is ordering national and local government agencies to immediately restore water supply in Abra. That's after local officials revealed some lines in their water system had been damaged by the quake. In this regard, regional disaster officials are requesting 300,000 bottles of drinking water. That's equivalent to over 6,000 boxes. At this time, they're just getting around 500 boxes.
Are the systems that were damaged, are they undergoing repair? Because we cannot be providing bottles of water for too long.
The president is also telling government agencies to dispatch water filtration systems to communities. Aside from water, the chief executive is also commanding government engineers to inspect damaged houses. He hopes evacuees can return to their homes once these are declared safe. Over 20,000 residents have been evacuated to safer grounds or to their relatives' houses.
Kung declared talagang structurally safe po yung mga building, pwede na. But people should be ready how to respond properly during aftershocks. Kasi malakas pa po ang posibleng aftershock.
The president is also concerned about possible landslides following Pag-asa's forecast of bad weather in the coming days. Social Welfare Secretary Erwin Tulfo says they have already prepared thousands of food packs for possible evacuees.
Work together with the local government so that we can make sure na walang nangangailangan na hindi natin nabigyan ng tulong.
Senator Amy Marcos, meanwhile, is urging concerned offices to immediately restore damaged churches. Before the situation briefing ended, a mayor even requested for fire truck and ambulance units from the president himself.
This time, siguro naman po open na po lahat yung request namin because may Ilocano president na kami and we delivered 96% of the votes of Abra during the last election. So tingin ko, kami naman po maniningil ngayon. Mr. President, maraming
Affected by the earthquake, Secretary Toots Ople says those affected may file their application for the financial aid with the nearest Overseas Workers Welfare Administration office in the region. The Government Service Insurance System, or GSIS, offering emergency loans for quake-affected members and pensioners. It says members without an existing emergency loan can apply for a 20,000 peso loan, while those with existing loan balances may borrow up to 40,000 pesos. Meanwhile, in Cebu, officials preparing to send help to areas devastated by the earthquake. Governor Gwen Garcia says she will discuss with Capital Department heads the specifics as to what form of assistance they will send. Lapu-Lapu City Mayor Junar Chan also says the city's search and rescue team is getting ready to be deployed to northern Luzon. The country sees over 900 new cases of more infectious Omicron subvariants. 890 of these were positive for BA.5, which is driving new surges globally. 18 more people contracted BA.4 and 15 BA.2.12.1. Health officials looking into the exposure and travel histories of the new infections. Daily cases across the country have been breaching the 3,000 mark this week. This is 32% higher than the average last week. The Philippines last had the same level of infections during the Omicron surge in February. Meanwhile, the Health Department will ask local global sharing platform COVAX if the facility could replace the expired COVID-19 shots worth 5.1 billion pesos procured by the private sector.
Efforts are ongoing now to work with our COVAX facility because they will be able to exchange the expiring vaccines of the national government. And so inquiries are being worked out whether they could do the same for the private sector vaccines.
The DOH says it could provide free vaccines to be distributed by the private sector. Up next, a check on one of the provinces hit by the destructive earthquake with senior correspondent David Santos live from Ilocos Sur. And how are Filipinos dealing with the threat of a food crisis? Ruth Cabal has part one of her special report right here on Newsnight.
MX3 dahil ito ay napatunayang may alpha, beta at gamma mangosteen. MX3 capsule helps avoid pain discomfort para iwas sakit. Tested and proven na low sodium, cholesterol-free at fat-free. Dito ako sa tunay, natural at original. MX3.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamiting panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Fried chicken? Timplang happy! With easy-to-cook Magnolia Chicken Timplados. Iba't ibang sarap ng chicken, kaya. Anong Magnolia Chicken Timplados mo? Iba't ibang easy chicken sarap.
Unang tama, ilabagan. Ang galing, ang sarap. Nagalagab lang. Sarap ulitin, susulitin ikaw. Ito ang tama.
Kinto One, Toyota's global leasing service, gives you the freedom to move, to go where you want, the freedom to be productive, freedom to pursue your passion. Kinto One, powered by Toyota, lets you choose how you drive your life, giving you the freedom to enjoy what matters most. The freedom to drive worry-free is yours. Kinto One. Subscribe and drive.
Meron pa!
Ay, ala!
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Tourists continue to visit Ilocos Sur, one of the quake-hit areas, despite the temporary closure of its famous landmarks. Let's bring in David Santos live from the province. David, how soon can tourist spots reopen there?
Well, Pia, like other parts of northern Luzon, some areas here in Ilocos Sur are also struggling to cope with the aftermath of Wednesday's massive quake. And while officials here are more than eager to resume tourism operations, they say public safety should come first.
historic city of Vigan listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site for having a best-preserved model of a Spanish colonial town in Asia. But following Wednesday's massive quake, Calle Crisologo, a major tourist attraction, has been temporarily sealed off. Tourists from all over who have booked tours months ago are still hoping to get a glimpse of Vigan's unique landmark.
So we want to witness kung ano yung mga historical structures dito. Pagkatapos, yung mga tourist spots nila, we want to see them.
Tanong kami, tawag kami sa
For
sa
Sigido,
agency,
sir, na makalaag.
sa tour guide namin kung ano, hindi ba cancel, papasukin pa kami. Tapos sila, wala man daw yung old church lang daw, oldest building lang daw, pinaka-old na nasira.
The local government wants ancestral homes and historical buildings checked for structural integrity. They hope to complete inspections by this weekend so they can reopen by Monday. For a city that relies heavily on tourism revenues, it wants to resume business as soon as possible, given the closure's potential impact on the local economy. But public welfare will still be a primary concern.
Those tourists who are already here will be made to stay, no? They can stay that. But for the meantime, we are discouraging, publicly announcing, from more tourists until such time that we can assess all the buildings, the safety, no, for public safety.
Although gustong-gusto natin na nandito yung mga turista at kinukumbida namin, at sabi nga ni Mayor Bonito, largely safe naman, naniniguro tayo. Wala tayo gustong mapinsala.
The powerful tremor is also dealing a significant blow to Ilocos Sur's rich religious heritage. The Vigan Cathedral and the adjacent St. Augustine Parish, both dating back to the 16th century, are also now off limits, pending extensive damage assessment.
If they're going to condemn the building, it's hindi na pwedeng gamitin, problema namin 'yon. Talagang malaking problema.
Now, church officials are still awaiting word on how soon government technical experts can say if the two places of worship are still safe for the public or if restoration is still a viable option. Meanwhile, Mayor Singson points out tourists are not banned from coming to Vigan at this time. There are just areas like the city's heritage district where we are now that will stay restricted to visitors for the meantime. Pia.
Senior correspondent David Santos reporting live from Ilocos Sur. National disaster response officials say 61 schools sustained damage from the earthquake that struck Abra yesterday. This is nearly twice the number estimated by the Education Department. DepEd pegs the rehabilitation cost at 228.5 million pesos. It's checking on the number of students and personnel affected. In other news, transport authorities are seeking the opinion of the National Economic and Development Authority and other government agencies on the impact of a bus fare hike. The LTFRB has also asked the Energy and Trade and Industry departments to submit their position papers on the matter. City and provincial bus operators are seeking an increase of between 4 to 7 pesos in the minimum fare and more charges beyond the initial 5 kilometers. The regular city bus fare is 11 pesos and for air-conditioned buses, it's 15 pesos.
Personally, I recognize nga talagang kailangan ng increase, but we will find that balance, ma'am. Kasi talagang mahirap din naman na basta-basta ka na lang mag-increase without any basis. So that's why we need all the opinion and the position paper of NEDA to give us a basis for the reasonable rate adjustment.
Siguro maintindihan naman kami ng commuters kasi pare-pareho naman tayo naghihirap ngayon dahil sa pandemic. Kung hindi naman nila kami susuportahan, baka wala sila lalong masakyan.
LTFRB plans to reopen 35 bus routes here in Metro Manila to reduce long lines during rush hour and allow operators to earn more. A foreign affairs official is suggesting more flexible approach in negotiations between the ASEAN and China for a code of conduct or COC in the South China Sea. Assistant Secretary for ASEAN Affairs Daniel Espiritu said the Philippines' 2016 arbitral win against China does not have to be invoked during negotiations for the COC. Espiritu says DFA Chief Enrique Manalo plans to assert the victory and the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea in the upcoming ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in August.
But whatever is it that's on the Hague ruling are only reflections of specific provisions in UNCLOS. So whether we invoke the arbitral tribunal award or not, the point is the moment we use UNCLOS in the COC, in the negotiations of the COC, and its resultant mechanisms, I guess that will already be enough. In fact, UNCLOS is bigger than the arbitral award. So we have to be more flexible on that.
CNN Philippines requested further comment from the DFA chief. ASEAN has been pushing for a legally binding code of conduct which will lay down the only allowable actions and behavior of parties in the South China Sea. The Presidential Commission on Good Government, which was formed to go after the ill-gotten wealth of President Marcos's family, stays under the new administration. But Justice Secretary Boying Remulla is looking to expand the agency's mandate. Remulla is proposing an asset forfeiture office for the assets and property seized from those involved in non-payment of taxes, drug trafficking, and other crimes. Remulla says his suggestion does not dilute the original function of the PCGG.
When we were looking into the future of the PCGG, now that it's 36 years after the fact, I don't think we'll spend the next 100 years running after the Marcoses. I don't think it's going to be that way. Might as well make good of something that's there already. So shift the mandate to something useful for the country. It may be more urgent now.
Remulla also confirming President Marcos did meet with top legal officials to discuss the International Criminal Court's probe into the Duterte drug war. Among those who attended the meeting were Remulla himself, Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez, Foreign Affairs Secretary Enrique Manalo, Solicitor General Menardo Guevara, Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile, and former presidential spokesman Harry Roque.
Hindi naman tayo tumitigil eh. We're not stopping eh. The investigations are ongoing. They're not being stopped. They're being pursued. If they ask for a report, we will give them a report out of committee, out of a friendship with them, out of decency. We'll give it to them if they ask for it. But for us to say that we are under them now, I think it's another matter. This has to be fleshed out properly in international law.
Roque says he was present in the meeting as President Marcos's private counsel and that discussions remain confidential. Roque was on the Senate ticket of the Marcos Duterte campaign in the last elections. He was the first Asian to be admitted to practice before the ICC. Malacanang extends the authority of officials designated as officers in charge of departments without permanent heads. Press Secretary Trixie Cruz Angeles says the validity of OICs will expire on December 31st instead of the end of this month unless President Marcos appoints a replacement. Among the agencies with OICs are the Health and Defense Departments. Maria Rosario Vergere is DOH OIC, while former Armed Forces Chief Jose Faustino is Defense OIC and Undersecretary. Faustino is covered by the one-year appointment ban on retired military officials. One of the key problems tackled in President Marcos's first State in the Nation address is the possible food supply shortage. In this special report, senior correspondent Ruth Cabal looks at how Filipinos are impacted of the global crisis.
In this community in Manila, even a pagpag or discarded leftover meal gets expensive. Minda Makabakyao sells a small pack for 15 pesos from 10 pesos. Pagpag means to dust off, referring to scrap food from restaurants. Dirt dusted off, washed, and cooked.
Bilihan mo pa ng tuyo. Tsaka bitsin. Ajik sarap. Ano, bibili kayo? Ay.
Pero marami pa po bang bumibili niya na kinakain nila mismo?
Oo. Yan ang kinabubuhay ng tao eh. Wala kaming magagawa. Hinahanap-hanap yan eh.
Hindi po sila natakot sa
wala.
Aling Minda says scavengers have been collecting less food scraps of late. Either people are eating out less, she says, or they are mindful of not wasting food. or restaurants are just crimping on lower supply.
Wala naman tao magagawa ganun ang buhay ng tao Ang minsan may pera kakain ka na masarap, pagka wala, di wala rin.
Marilu Doria recalls how pagpag was at a time meaty and seemed barely eaten. But now, they've gone to the dogs, literally.
6 na hugas lang, tapos gigisa mo siya ng igigisa sa mantika, tsaka mo siya timplahan, masarap. Nag-uulam din ako nito. Kaya lang to para sa aso ko.
Non-government organization Project Pearls has been sponsoring 1 meal a day for families here for over a decade. And it says that their beneficiaries have doubled to more than 500 families since mid-2020 at the height of the pandemic.
During the lockdown and pandemic, syempre sarado yung mga restaurants, so walang pumapasok na pagpag. So mas hungry sila, mas worried sila mamatay sa gutom kesa mamatay sa COVID.
A social weather station survey says more than 3 million families surveyed in April said they experienced hunger and not having anything to eat. In June, the pace of increase in consumer prices rose to its highest in almost 4 years, driven by expensive food items. Albay Representative Joey Salceda says inflation and hunger are closely related. He estimates, for example, that if full-year inflation settles at 5.5%, this could translate to 76,500 more households going hungry.
Yung isang bagay po na nakakapag-limit po sa food, sa ating pong food security is high food prices. Kasi yung mga mahirap, hindi makabili yung kanilang tama kasi mataas na po yung presyo ng kanilang mga basic commodities. I would rather call it a food security crisis.
As with other emergencies or calamities, Salcedo proposes special powers for the president to fight inflation. Under the Bayan Bangon Muli bill, these include anti-hoarding, mandating government financial institutions to prioritize loans for suppliers of food, energy, and other essential goods. Indicative of the need to quickly address a possible food crisis, President Bongbong Marcos vows to improve local food production. Ruth Cabal, CNN Philippines.
Find out how hunger affects development in part 2 of this special report. Coming up on Newsnight, teasers for Blackpink's new song showing K-pop artists in a video game universe. Plus, another star Filipino cager will show off his talent in the Korean Basketball League. Details next.
Baby, I'm home! Happy yes ako kapag listo at ganado siyang kumain. Happy and healthy siya sa Nutri-Chunks. Recommended by my vet. Nutri-Chunks is the only one with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat and fortified pa with essential nutrients that help keep him strong, healthy, and happy. Listo ganado sa Nutri-Chunks.
Sustainability, as defined officially, is addressing the needs of the present generation without compromising the needs of future generations. Urban expansion of Metro Manila, we cannot stop it anymore. But I wrote also in 1973, when I was a student, development is not worthy of a name unless spread evenly like butter. We should balance the development. I think San Miguel is doing patriotic and philanthropic infrastructure. So we are aligned in our love of our country.
You're watching Newsnight. The NCAA's reigning MVP and Rookie of the Year 22-23 season. Abando is the 6th Filipino to play in the KBL. Anyang is part of the East Asia Super League, which tips off in October. K-pop news now. Blackpink fans get ready for a new music video after nearly 2 years. Here's a look at the teasers for the track Ready for Love, made in partnership with the game PUBG Mobile. The full song and its music video drop tomorrow. The group's last music video, Lovesick Girls, came out in October 2020. And sparking rumors yet again of a K-pop collaboration are James Reid and Liza Soberano. Bam Bam of GOT7 posted an image dining with the two musicians here in Manila. But when a netizen speculated that the sheet on the table contained lyrics of a new track, Bam Bam was quick to point out that this was just the menu. The three artists also met up in South Korea earlier this month. In streaming, the trailer for Season 3 of Netflix comedy drama Never Have I Ever is here. The series tells the story of Davy, an Indian-American high school student who has to deal with grief and the troubles of dating and growing up.
The debut of Daxton was unreal. Your social status has skyrocketed so much that now people hate you. You used to make that face all the time. On the ground. And now my face is so relaxed.
Season 3 of Never Have I Ever lands on Netflix August 12th. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Kini ang simbianan sa RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS. DXKS. Jess Ochenta. Ang inyong Radio Ronda. 5,000 watts. Nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN, Radio Philippines Network. DXKS, Jess Ochenta.
Face-to-face classes as students and teachers across the country gear up for the school opening. But the return to classroom order draws mixed reactions from parents and educational institutions amid the lingering COVID-19 pandemic. On the other hand, the business sector views in-person learning as a means to boost the struggling economy. All right, let's clarify that face-to-face classes by November for grade school and high school. Good evening. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our first guest tonight is the chairman of the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED. Joining me via Zoom is Prospero Popoy Rivera. Glad you can join us, sir. Thank you very much for being with us. Of course, DepEd is the one that has jurisdiction over grade school and high school, but college po ang hawak po ninyo. And syempre, nung pinag-usapan po, sir, yung face-to-face classes by November for grade school and high school, ang daming nagsabi, paano yung college, no? You do have a decision on that. Can you share more on that with us, sir?
Well, thank you, Pia, for inviting me, because I think I have been misquoted and misunderstood lately in the media. No? When I said that CHED does not need to require universities to go to face-to-face, it is because the universities have been doing face-to-face since last year. Remember, universities were allowed in medical and health sciences to do face-to-face in January of last year. In 2021, the engineering and technology programs were allowed in September. And in November, CHED already allowed all universities in all degree programs to do face-to-face classes. I think the Manila media was not able to see it because the universities wanted to open in the second semester, but Metro Manila saw a spike in COVID infections. That's why you didn't see in the second semester Metro Manila schools open for face-to-face. But the schools outside of Metro Manila, many have already started face-to-face in January of 2022. We already allowed the graduation ceremonies, even sports competition. UAAP and NCAA completed their basketball championship face-to-face early this year. And tomorrow, I am going to General Santos to give the commencement address in MSU Jensen in face-to-face mode. So all the graduation ceremonies in universities are now face-to-face. So we started very early, so there is no more need to tell them to do face-to-face because many have started and most are doing face-to-face in the opening of classes this August.
Okay, so medyo, kumbaga, nagkamali lang ng headline.
Kasi yun lang, kasi parang ang lumabas sa media,
kasi
parang ayaw
mahaba
daw
kasi yung explanation.
face-to-face. Last year pa nag-face-to-face ang mga schools. So, I don't know
what are you allowing?
There is a question on higher ed.
So, Sir Popoy, in other words, what are you allowing? Because you allowed it na before, para mang ganon. Like you said, in certain programs.
January of 2021, we allowed it. Because the vaccination levels last year in higher ed really started to go up. We were very aggressive in school-based vaccination. So currently, the vaccination rate for faculty and administrators is already at 90%, and the vaccination rate for students is already at 80%. So the vaccination levels already allows schools to allow their students to go and attend classes. We have been working hard in vaccination since last year. We're now working on the booster shots in vaccination.
Okay. So dapat ang headline, Ched, matagal nang pinapayagan ang ibang mga kolehiyo at universidad na mag face-to-face classes, in other words. Ganun na lang.
Ang nangyari tuloy, Pia, tumatawag yung mga school president sa akin, nagtatanong kung meron daw silang hihintay instruction. Sabi ko, last year pa kayo nagbukas, why do I need to instruct you now?
Yeah, okay. So, all right. So, na-confuse lang. So, in other words, you don't really need to give an instruction, like you said. No, why do I need to instruct you now? You've been doing that anyway, and you know, I guess what we're saying here is that colleges and universities are encouraged to go full mode for face-to-face kung kakayanin at kung walang surge, because obviously common sense, sentido común will dictate na kung may surge, medyo mahirapan tayo mag face-to-face, no? And not just for colleges but for grade school and high school.
Well, because the IATF rules allow 100% face-to-face in alert level 1. So in areas that are still under alert level 2, the IATF rules allow only until 60% face-to-face. So we have to abide by that unless the IATF now changes the alert level and says everyone, even an alert level 2, can do 100%. And the schools will comply based on the rules of the IATF and their local governments.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, Sir Popoy, kanina, no, meron nang UAAP, may NCAA. Talo nga kami.
Nag-championship. Tapos na championship. Nag-championship.
I knew you were going to say that.
Nag-champion na UP. Full face-to-face.
Sasabihin ko nga, natalo nga kami.
Tapos na rin ang volleyball, full face-to-face. So I don't know why they're asking if face-to-face is allowed. Full contact sports is allowed face-to-face na.
Yeah, exactly. So kung full contact sports is allowed, dapat may full face-to-face classes. But anyway, okay. But Chairman Popoy, Commissioner Popoy, I wanted to ask you also, although this would have been nice to ask DepEd, unfortunately, medyo hindi available sila, no? Can you speak about, the importance for learners to be able to have physical interaction, to be together in a classroom, to be discussing with the teacher and with classmates, no? How important is that, the interaction and having people in, students or learners in a room, in a classroom together?
It's very important because remember, in education, socialization and developing values with respect to other students is very critical. But equally important is really the skill set that they need to acquire. So yung mga degree programs that require skills such as IT, health sciences, maritime, inuna natin yan last year na mag face-to-face na kahit na meron pang COVID. Kasi we are worried that they will not get the necessary training and they might not turn out to be good doctors or nurses or seafarers. So inuna natin yan last year. We pushed for the opening of face-to-face classes in the medical and allied health sciences January of 2021. So we're very serious. Ngayon, yung ibang degree programs that are not very skills-based, pwede na rin magbukas since November of last year.
Okay. So, Commissioner De Vera, itong kanina nabanggit nyo po no, na we have a good vaccination rate. However, the challenge, more correctly now, is that yung second booster is only available for certain priority sectors. So would you, as CHED Commissioner, want to urge government to allow, expand na itong second booster shot coverage para mas malakas ang loob ng mga, hindi lang ng estudyante, ng mga magulang nila, pati ng mga teachers and, school personnel na to go back to school? Should we do that already?
Oh yes, we have been pushing for the vaccination of everyone in the higher education sector. Kaya dun sa IATF dati, ako yung nakipaglaban na i-upgrade yung classification ng education personnel from B1 to A4 para mauna silang vaccinate. No? We need now to focus on the boosters for everyone, not just the seniors, not just the health workers, but everyone. We need to be very aggressive.
Not just the immunocompromised. Lahat na, total, ang dami pang stock ng bakuna sa atin na lang, parang ganon. Dahil marami namang willing magpa-second booster, we just don't fall under the A1 to A3.
At saka PIA, successful ang school-based vaccination. Kasi madaling mag-monitor if it's in the school because there's a list of students, there's a master list. You can really track how much and how many are being vaccinated every vaccination activity. And we require the schools to report almost every week on the percentage of vaccination. Kaya mataas sa higher education ang vaccination rate.
Final words, Commissioner De Vera?
Well, thank you for inviting me. I was able to clarify the story because I saw several news outlets saying that I am leaving it to the school to decide whether they will do face-to-face or not, or I have been quoted as saying I will not require. There is no need for the CHED anymore to intervene because the schools have been doing face-to-face since last year. What we're doing is monitoring them and helping them if they have any problems. No? Yung ibang schools kasi, ang problema, we require mandatory consultation with parents and students. In some of the schools, the parents and the students are reluctant. So, and the schools have to do a better job of convincing them of the safety of students so they can go back to school. No? We've also been funding schools to improve their connectivity to become smart campuses. And many of them have already implemented the Smart Campus project from Bayanihan 2. So malakas na yung signal do sa kanilang schools. I just came from Sulu State College last week. And inside the campus, the connectivity is already much stronger. So that will help the students and the school do better, better learning.
Well, that's good to know about the Sulu Wi-Fi there. Maraming salamat po sa inyo. And also, you're welcome, sir. And thank you so much for your time. And thank you for that very well-explained clarification. CHED Commissioner Popoy De Vera. Salamat po, sir. We'll still talk about the opening of classes. Actually, opening of classes and face-to-face classes by November as the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry joins us next. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinaagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan ug kung primary eye care ang paghisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala, AG Buñuel Optical Clinic.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa syudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street Ragyahapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity. Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na silang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, Makita Power Tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton Paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
Aniya na ang food supplement nga kumpleto, sakto o aprobado. Ang Calabo Plus Herbal Capsule. Calabo Plus Herbal Capsule. Maayo alang sa pag-maintain sa imong maayong panglawas, kahimsog ug kapiskay sa mga pamati. Calabo Plus Herbal Capsule. Pakusog sa enerhiya ug stamina, mupalikon sa imong immune system. Calabo Plus Herbal Capsule. Andam sa pagpakigbatok sa mga nagkadaiyang balatian. Musulay pabaka sa uban, diri na kita sa kasaligan. Calabo Plus Herbal Capsule. Calabo Plus Herbal Capsule. A quality product of Jesser Marketing. Palit na karon sa mga butika.
EXL Makabuhay Plus Dietary Supplement. Nakakatulong iwasan ang iba't ibang uri ng sakit tulad ng diabetes, arthritis, rheumatism, hypertension, cancer, urinary tract infections o UTI, respiratory tract infections tulad ng ubo, sipon, lagnat, heart attack, constipation, fatigue, kidney, lung problem, premature aging, memory loss at depression. EXL Makabuhay Plus Dietary Supplement. Buhay at makulay ang buhay sa EXL Makabuhay.
EXL Makabuhay Plus Dietary Supplement. Mapalit sa pinakaluwag na butika o drugstore sa inyong lugar.
Everybody who's enrolled should abide by the department order, and parents are also encouraged to ensure that their students go to school. Again, we're trying to do some education or learning recovery, so this is the right time for us to undertake the face-to-face.
Kailangan pag-usapan yung realities okay naman yung yung mga ganyang suggested implementation of the policy na mag-pull nga face-to-face na tayo. Kaya lang different schools have different situations.
Welcome back. This is Politics as usual. Our next guest will talk about face-to-face classes by November. He is the president of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. George Barcelon, joining us live via Zoom. Mr. Barcelon, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Yeah.
Tell us why PCCI thinks that students should be going back to school for face-to-face classes by November.
Yeah. Good evening, Pia. Well, I think we have to learn to live with the COVID. We have to normalize, our not only the economy, but also the education of our young. And what's important is really now that whoever is designated as the Secretary of Health should work closely with the Department of Education that's headed by Vice President Sara and set out the protocols that's needed. I think, what can be done. Of course, earlier I heard you talk with Popoy, the Commissioner of Chet, that it's up to the school to make the decision, backed up by students to be vaccinated. Of course, there has been some clamor on the other side that there hasn't been any strong indication that the children, since they have a stronger natural immunity, requires that. But I leave it to the professional, no, on that matter. In our take is that we need to have a protocol to do the testing at the lowest level. Meaning to say, the barangay should be given a testing kit. And, each family, I think after the experience about COVID-19 for 2 years, the general populace, our citizens, are responsible. As a matter of fact, they only, for the rapid antigen test, what we gather from the medical field is that a person use them when there are symptoms. Okay, so I can imagine if this were made available at that level, wherein a family can look out for themselves. If the young doesn't have any symptoms, they should be allowed to go to school. If the adult, the productive part of the family, they should be going to work. And I think that's the only way. I wouldn't want to put the authority of who can go to school, who will not go to school. I will give that responsibility to the responsible family to decide. But the school must open. For the last year and a half, really, ang mga kabataan natin talagang wala silang natuto especially for those marginalized, no? Wala naman silang Wi-Fi. And
or kung may Wi-Fi, or kung may Wi-Fi man, sir.
In the business sector, you're losing some moving forward, no? We're really looking at the rebound in our economy. And then we do need young, well-trained young people to be part of the workforce. So that's a bit of our concern. And I was asked, is it because to help the economy? I said that's secondary. The primary is really to have our young go back to normal life. No? Yung interaction, yung tumatakbo sila sa eskwela, and that's, I think that's very important.
Interaction, socialization, as Popoy De Vera was explaining earlier, and we all have our experiences where our children talk about missing school, missing their friends, not being able, and I've heard before, there are some kids who don't know how to make friends anymore, hindi na sanay na makipag-usap sa kapwa bata. So the effect is so deep. At the same time, sir, kanina, di ba, may nabanggit kayo, halimbawa, Wi-Fi, may Wi-Fi na nga, tapos yung telepono niya hindi naman talaga smartphone or medyo lumang modelo, and therefore it becomes such an issue for them. But I wanted to ask more, sir, about itong yung economic rebound. That's so important, of course, no. But can you be more specific? Like, how exactly is this going to happen? When make it more, illustrate it more for us. What's going to happen when more people go back to school? All along the way. Ano yung mga benefits?
Alam mo, Pia, ako naman, realistic ako, we definitely cannot contain 100% the infection of COVID-19. Pero ang nakikita natin ngayon, yung mga na-infected, medyo mild, no? Yung sinasabi natin na dati flatten the curve, no? Ibig sabihin, hindi naman na-overwhelm yung mga hospital natin. And all indications shows that the numbers of infections are up, but the hospital are still able to deal with it. Okay? So that's a safe sign. Now, on the side of really the Department of Health and getting ready, is that whatever medication that's needed, no, to deal with it. I will admit, na COVID din ako nadali din ako sa COVID Okay, and of course I didn't know where I got it, but my experience is that yes, it's like a flu, sipon, lagnat, but after a few days it tapers off. And then, but you just have to wait for the to be safe, no? Yung rapid antigen test to be negative. So I went through that, and but as you were saying about children, no, I can see yung mga apo ko, they just I was telling them, baka yung mata nila maging kwadrado lang eh. Kasi they're always looking at the iPad.
Screen,
You know? Walang interaction sa mga kapong kaklase niya. And really, I see how the marginalized suffer. I have people come to me borrowing money for the Wi-Fi card, but they're using, as you said, regular phone. Ano kang matuto ka sa regular phone? Mahirap. And then the budget, our budget for education dito sa GAA is one of the biggest. It's about 18% of the annual budget. So we have to make use of that. No, that's why the protocol is important. The school, both school and local government, must work hand in hand. And really, the society naman we've gone through 18 months or 2 years, no? May experience na tayo, and I hand it to the citizen because I think they are responsible now.
Sir George, earlier I asked this of Commissioner Popoy de Vera. Would would the business sector urge the second booster shot for more sectors? Because right now it's A1 to A3 hanggang immunocompromised. And then, there's talk about the waning effectiveness of the first booster shot. Tapos, we're talking about school begins in August and then November, sana full face-to-face classes. Dapat naman mag-second booster na yung the rest of the population. Ang laki-laki ng supply. Ang kulang ang uptake.
Yung second booster or whatever, it's really supposed to be na, halimbawa nahawa ka, the symptoms should not be severe. Okay? That's one. Ngayon, I've been asked questions. We sometimes in a forum, we also sort of gravitate towards, to be safe, mag-booster shots kayo. And I was asked a question, and I think the Department of Health should address this. No? Sabi niya, sir, nagpapabuna kami. Pero ano bang guarantee namin? Because all of this vaccination are still under EUA, Emergency Use Authority. Samantala, buong mundo, I think there must be about 5 billion jobs already. So it's all, I think our Department of Health and Pharmaceutical must be cognizant of the fact that it's about time na people are taking their vaccination. There are certain cases na may side effect. Alam ko yung Philippine our health, no? Sila nagsasalo ng problema. But it's about time. The big companies, they should also, like any drugs, when you're out in the market, you should take certain responsibility. So I was asked that question, and I'm just sharing with you. There bound to be some sector in the society, takot sila sa bakuna.
Okay. Sir George Barcelon of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI. Sir, maraming salamat po. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Up next, our correspondents joining us on the challenges of DepEd's order for mandatory face-to-face classes by November 2. This is Pulse as usual. Stay tuned.
SMC, San Miguel Corporation. Bisag unsang industriya ang sudlan niini, tinguha sa SMC ang pag-uswag o paglambo sa mga Pilipino. Karon, gikan sa SMC, aniya na ang SMC Davao Cement. SMC Davao Cement. Gama sa Davao, para sa Mindanao. SMC Davao Cement. Ato ni Bay.
Maayong balita sa tanan sa atong panginahanglan sa panimalay, mga gamit, ingon man mga dekorasyon, pwede na natong mapalit diha sa Wellington Bazaar. Anausab sa Wellington Bazaar ang mga bestidahon, karsunison, plain t-shirt, plastic chair, floor mat, mantel, banig, folding bed, habol, mosketero, trapal ug tigdumala sa Wellington Bazaar. Maayong adlaw alang kaninyo. Wellington Bazaar, sukiyon ta sa kanunay.
Uy, day! Naunsa man ka, day?
Day, kanang lisod na mga kakita, day. Uy!
Sus, naunsa ba ka? Uy nga, katong niaging bulan, okay pa man ka. Naunsa day karon?
Laot siguro ni sisingunit aning cellphone kanang si computer, day.
Da, mo lagi na akong ingon ba? Uy, day, nakoy balita para sa imuha. Gamit og Lutein Plus, uy.
Lutein Plus?
Oo, tungod ang Lutein Plus, day, duna kini 13 ka ingredients. Hindi lang kini para sa mata, kundi sa imuhang tibuok lawas. Nga maka-assist pod sa imuhang anxiety o depression.
Ang Lutein Plus o sa ka-award-winning brand nga gikan pa sa New Zealand.
The award-winning supplements from Clean Green, New Zealand Omega Plus ang support sa heart and blood system. Ang Lutein Plus ay 13 ka mga ingredients, lakip ng vitamins A and C. Dili lamang kung maradyaw sa itong pananaw, nagsuporta sa bini sa ato intirulawas. Ning panahon nga jari kita kuman sa COVID-19 pandemic, kinahanglan magpabilin kitang himsog inom sa Lutein Plus, Omega Plus, and Primrose Plus Soft Gel. Inintanan available dia sa New Family Drug, Palma Drug, sa Aquarian Pharmacy.
Pagdalaga o gulitaw na gani, kinahanglan limpyo og hamis kanunay ang kutis. Gamit og Karisma Kojic Soap. Karisma Kojic Soap, pampahamis, pampaputi ug pampabata sa panit. Karisma Kojic Soap. Karisma Kojic Soap. Mao kini ang tubag alang sa mga teenager nga gusto makaangkon og nindot nga kutis. Karisma Kojic Soap. Karisma Kojic Soap. Karisma Kojic Soap. Karisma Kojic Soap. Ang sikreto sa mga gwapa o gwapo. Karisma Kojic Soap. Mabalit sa inyong mga suking butika.
Mga Surigaonon, ana-anay maayong lugar na adtuan ang Interior Hub Home Furnishing Shop nga nahimutang sa Dalan Borromeo ning Dakbayan sa Surigao. Anaa kanila ang barato na mga gamit para sa pagpagwapa sa inyong banyo, kusina o tibuok balay. Nagtanyag sila sa mga packages, sa faucet, wash basin ug toilet bowl with complete fittings na swak sa inyong budget. Sa Interior Hub Home Furnishing by Earl Brian Palma. Con 648.
EXL Makabuhay Plus Health and Wellness for God's Glory.
Nakay pasyente ma'am no mo isuon o sa gibati ato ma'am.
Ang gibati ato niya do ikalihok yung mga lawas, ulo lang makalihok pagka mo dili wala na di nakadaw yung lawas bugab na nakaayo. Mandi maasa yang tiil. Makabuhay Plus lang jud tuloy ang sa Ginoo. Samtod nakalakaw na di siya do. Primero ina niya pero hinga na di ang pamati mga lihok na pagkatudis makakaon na siya makagulit na sa kusara. Makabuhay Plus lang jud tuloy ang sa Ginoo jud. Interesting ipayan na namo nakakita ni ani sa mumbalay na nagmotor na jud.
Sige pangalan nimo ba?
Charlene po, taga-Turi.
Makabuhay! EXL Makabuhay Plus Dietary Supplement. Mapalit sa pinakadool nga butika o drugstore sa inyong lugar.
This is Politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. We are on our final stretch. Join me now are CNN Philippines correspondents Melissa Lopez and AC Nichols. AC, of course, did that story earlier on DepEd and the grade school and high school, going back full face-to-face classes in November. Melissa Lopez did the CHED story for colleges and universities. Let's begin with Mel. Mel, itong mga colleges and universities, quite a bit of them, some of the programs had already been face-to-face as early as the earlier part of the year. No? So what Popoy de Vera was saying earlier was that it's not like he has to give an instruction or CHED has to instruct them as to what to do, but parang things will take its natural course. Can you talk to us more about that?
That's right. Actually, Pia, it's all started 2021, late 2021. Some of the colleges had already been given authority to do limited face-to-face, although parang limited siya to specific courses which need hands-on training, yung mga parang practicum or clerkship for like nurses and physical therapy courses. Before, the policy was you had to seek approval of both the CHED and the local government before you can offer, bring back the students. But it has been eased. The policy has been eased as early as earlier this year. I think it was March when the CHED order came out. Na as long as the area is under alert level 1 and 2, no more requirement to seek prior approval before you can take your students back in. It has. They also allowed 100% capacity in classrooms. Pero yung mga physical distancing policies, kung gusto acrylic barriers, call na yan ng school. So this is operating mainly on the premise na kumbaga adults na sila eh. they're earlier vaccinated now compared to our basic education students. That's why there's this freedom in place for colleges and universities to make that call.
And of course, quite a number of students are just raring to go back to school. Kanina nga, may binanggit pa nga si Commissioner Popoy na meron na nga tayong full contact sports, di ba? UAAP and CAA. Tapos yung klase, hindi pa natin magawa. Right, Mel?
Right. Actually, concerts are also being scheduled na, no? Pero nagsisimula naman yung schools with a graduation. So medyo, kumbaga, anticlimactic kasi they're gonna see each other again. Graduate na sila. But I guess that's where we start. And maybe, Chairman De Vera said earlier today that he expects a really significant shift na starting the next school year, malamang most, if not all, of the schools will already go back to face-to-face kasi 2 years has been too long.
That's right. 2 years has been too long. I'm sure Mel can speak to this, but I wanted AC to talk more about this. No, the importance of socialization, the importance of being in the same classroom, interacting with your classmates, with your friends. And AC, this is so important, especially for mga grade schoolers, no, and mga high schoolers, right? AC?
Yes, exactly. This is why the Department of Education also, since last year nga, has been pushing for more students to go back to in-person classes. So, as you mentioned, especially for the younger students, marami din kasing parents na although in the beginning there was hesitation on their part dahil natatakot sila, of course, dahil maraming nahahawa ng COVID-19, pero later on na-realize nila din yung disadvantages nung nasa bahay lang yung mga anak nila, lalong-lalo na yung start ng schooling, no, nag-kinder nung 2020, so never pang naka-experience ng everyday pumapasok, nakikita yung mga classmates, nakakapag-socialize, and studies show naman na may effect din talaga yung lack of socialization with other children, may epekto din sa personality ng mga bata. And as Chairman Popoy was mentioning then earlier, I want to note that even naman in the basic education sector, the concept of face-to-face classes is not new na. Since last year, it was initially implemented as limited face-to-face and then eventually expanded. The implementation was expanded, no? So marami na rin talagang mga schools na nag-implement ng face-to-face classes. But the new concept kasi that the new administration wants to push is yung full capacity in-person classes na. And ito yung possible na maging challenge sa maraming basic education schools, particularly those in urban areas like in Metro Manila kasi alam naman natin na overcrowding is a common issue.
Overcrowding, kanina nga no, in your report you interviewed the principal of Rizal High School and challenge na nga no yung paano pupunuin nila yung mga classroom nila. Ito na naman tayo, no, AC.
Yes, ayun nga kasi sa mga nakausap ko na mga school officials, pre-pandemic, their style talaga is shifting. So they would do shifting, morning shift and then afternoon shift para lang makapasok lahat ng bata kasi nga hindi talaga sila kasya. No? They don't have enough classrooms to hold everyone. And mind you, yung shifting na yon per class, umaabot pa rin sila ng 50, sometimes 60, even 100, yung mga talagang very congested public schools. And in particular, nakausap ko kanina sa Rizal High School in Pasig City. They have over 12,000 students, no? And kailangan talaga nila more than 200 classrooms, Pia. Pero sa ngayon, ang available lang is over 100. Problema pa nila, ang daming classrooms na hiniram ng local government unit for isolation facilities. So right now, the school officials are really struggling. They don't know kung paano yung gagawin nila. If pre-pandemic, they're doing 2 shifts, paano ngayon? Kung papasok lahat, 4 shifts? Would that mean just 2 hours of in-person time with the teacher? And if they do that, may matututunan ba talaga yung mga bata? Parang that's also one question that teachers have. So right now, ang dami nilang mga meetings, nag-uusap-usap sila, they want to come up with possible solutions. And at the end of the day, ang sabi nga sa akin ng principal na nakausap ko kanina, wala silang choice but to be creative kung talagang ipupush yan ng Department of Education, Pia.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight, AC Nichols and Mel Lopez. You know, there's nothing like reporters out in the field, journalists on the ground. Maraming salamat sa inyong dalawa. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in Viber groups, and risk warfare, digital and otherwise. But we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Ontiveros. See you back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m.
RPN Radio Philippines.